Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to another indie book review. I am reviewing my second anthology collection, and I'm still not entirely sure how to take notes or talk about these. So if this seems a little bit more spaced out than normal, it's not just the baby brain, it's also the I'm still not sure how I want to do this brain. So today I am reviewing Collective Darkness. This is a horror anthology edited by Elizabeth Suggs, and I've had this one for a while, but life got crazy. And I've discovered that short stories are one of my most preferred mediums for horror works just because horror relies so much on the unknown, and so you can write too much and reveal too much and kind of take away the scariness. And I was really interested in getting more into just reviewing anthologies in general. Now this one, right off the bat, confused me slightly with the theme. Now, an anthology doesn't necessarily have to have a theme. It could just be, here's me and my friends writing horror. I am a fan of themes in anthologies. I really liked the Gothic Blue Book Krampus Carol anthology that were all holiday-related horror. But the theme of this one felt strange to me because it didn't feel like a theme. It was darkness. It was the concept of darkness, both physical nighttime darkness or the darkness of a dark room, but also the darkness of the human mind. That's not necessarily a bad theme. It's not a bad thing at all. The thing is that it kind of feels redundant as a theme. Yeah, horror is dark inherently. And so it kind of felt like, oh yeah, BTW, make sure that it's dark, didn't seem to add a lot. And as a result, if I had been reading through these stories without knowing what the theme was, I could not have picked out what the theme was. And that isn't necessarily something that is very much against it. I do prefer it a little bit more of a curated type of list, and this didn't necessarily feel very curated according to a theme, but the stories themselves held up. It was a very wide range. You had some Lovecraftian creepy things going on in small towns. You had some more contemporary man is the monster type of stories. I was very happy to see, I don't think there were any real morality tales, and I'm not terribly against morality tales in horror. The thing with me, though, is that I always find those less scary than the horror that is more random or more based on you were in the wrong place or something else. Because this idea of, just don't be a dick and you won't get got doesn't really scare me as much as the randomness that is in these stories. And these stories have a lot of surreal Lovecraftian, very little explained type of vibes in the horror. And I'm going to talk about just the 3 that stuck out to me the most, because there are 12 in this collection, and if I tried to speak in any depth about all 12, this video is going to be a lot longer than a book that is under 200 pages usually would be on my channel. So the first story that jumped out to me was Padua's Eyes by Jonathan Reddock. This is purely because of the theme, where the story was actually originally intended for a different anthology that didn't come to fruition, and that anthology had the theme of everyone had to write based on the phrase sparkly vampire pony. And I'm like, yes. And yes, sparkly vampire pony did come into play in the story, and for that concept alone, I was invested. And yes, there were some other things, some other themes, and almost a kind of very deep thematic theme on the true cost of retribution that I wasn't expecting from a horror short story about a sparkly vampire pony. But I really enjoyed that. My other favorite, or my second favorite, was Red Flag by K.R. Patterson. I don't want to give too much away, but this one had one of the best takes on mental health in horror, and as anyone who works in mental health knows, that the way it's always portrayed in horror is not good. And this one felt a lot more nuanced and nice twist ending that I didn't see coming. And that might have something to do with the fact that, if I remember correctly, I believe the author works in psychology in one way or another. At least I believe that's what was in the bio, which shows in the story. And I really enjoyed it. And while I'm still not gonna gravitate towards any horror books that have really big mental health themes because it continues to not be done well, it's nice to know that there's at least a couple examples where it doesn't suck. And the last one, Crimson Snow by Austin Slade Perry. I'm not gonna lie, big part of the reason why this one stuck out to me is that there was an romance in it, and it was own voices. And if you have ever tried to actively find own voices, aka written by queer men, romances, it's hard. In any genre, it's hard. So I was really excited to see that one in here. It was a super surreal take. Group of friends, but they weren't quite as stupid as most group of friends in a horror story is, and I liked that. But that one again got very surreal to the point where I was less scared and more trying to figure out what was going on, which is usually my issue with Lovecraft horror in general, is that my brain just can't accept that it's just horrible. I gotta try to figure it out, and all the brain power goes from being scared to being analytical. But the romance was adorable, and it was, well, that one got pretty gory, actually, if I remember correctly. So I really enjoyed that one as well. In general, this entire anthology is going to be a great pick if you like horror. If you don't already like horror, it's not going to work for you at all. Again, surreal and gory and not a good place for beginners. But if you're an old hand at it, you'll probably enjoy it. I could tell a lot of the twists before they came out in the stories, but I'm also obsessively looking for twists at every point in time when I read any book, and I will come up with like 3 or 4 different possibilities for twists, so I don't hold it against a story that I could figure out the twist beforehand. And in general, I gave the book 4 stars. Definitely suggest for fans of the genre, and for those who are like trying to dip their toes in, I'll keep searching, but I don't have high hopes. So this would usually be the part of the video where I say, if you're an indie author and you're interested in a review, however, I am closed for the foreseeable future because I finally got it through to my brain that it is important to pull back when you suddenly have a baby in the house that you hadn't planned on until the day before you picked him up from the hospital. So I have no idea how long it'll take me to get open to review requests again. As of right now, the only review requests I am accepting are from authors whose work I have already reviewed before, because I am sticking to the familiar paths. Hopefully by summer. That's kind of my goal at the moment. Maybe I'll get really on top of things out of nowhere, but I'm not counting on that. Regardless, with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.